Alright, so yesterday I spent a little bit of time and I actually worked on the Evo. I didn't bother to bring my hat and stuff in, so there's no POV shots or anything. It was kind of... I was pretty lost at one point, just sitting there messing with it and really not getting where everything was going. But finally, after a lot of meticulous work, I got all of the old lines off of the fuel pump, the double pumper setup, because they had some damage to them, and I replaced them all with brand new. And I've also put everything into the car now. So let me throw you guys in here, put on a flashlight. So as you can see, I've got one line hooked up, the other two fuel lines are on, and then I just have to get this last gold fitting right here, the OEM plug, and then ground this thing and power it. So at least for that part, we are pretty much done with the rear end side of the fuel pump system, or the fuel system. Now we have to move into the engine bay and work on the stuff like the hob switch and a couple other things to get direct power, and then gotta fill it with oil and coolant again, and I think we're ready for our start. I took another stab at the wiring, so we've gotten a little bit further here. I found that the MAF plug, get some light in here, ended up being tapped to that right there, and then the other one kind of goes, this is I think the flex fuel sensor or something. It ties into the ground right there and then runs along here into the other MAF plug. So those are all spliced and ready to go now, which is great. You can see those are the OEM plugs right there. One of them used both of the wires, so didn't have to keep the plug anymore, and it was nice that he left the actual wiring from the wiring harness side on there so that I can mash them completely up. So yeah, now we have to focus on the hob switch and get this ground in real quick, and then figure out a couple more things, and I think we're pretty much there. Like, it's very exciting. It's kind of been taking a couple days, but it's worth just sitting back, because you know, a lot of this stuff I wasn't sure of when I was installing it, but just taking a step back, taking a moment to think about how things are supposed to go, and then matching them up to the harness and everything. It's going well so far. So I got the black wire moved all the way to the front. It is now plugged into the hob switch. That's also teed in between the wastegate. I do have to run and get some 10 gauge so I can extend the wiring harness in the back here, and I have put everything back together in the interior of the rear seats here. I tapped into the fuel pump wiring harness, the OEM harness here, so everything's all run, and here, let me just show you. It's all tucked away nicely. So right here is where the plug, the factory plug, sits. It's right under this carpet, and then all the other lines run straight through the back here, and then everything is tied into the pumps there. So yeah, we're looking pretty good. We're just gonna go ahead and run over to the store, grab coolant, grab the 10 gauge wire, and we have oil already for the car, so I'm going to fill up the car with oil again. Oh, I have to finish doing the hard line at the bottom of the car right now, where the fuel filter sits right next to the OEM hard line. I have to pull out the hard line and actually install it to there. So those are the final steps. I'm going to hit all of those, just kind of do a once over on the car, and then hopefully start it up today. Alrighty, so we've made it back to the house. I've got all the goodies. I've got 2 bottles of coolant here, and then the butt connectors, and a spool of 10 gauge wire, and then also more goodies for the Evo, I believe. And then there's 2 5-quart bottles of oil there. So I think we're set here. First things first, I'm gonna try to splice this in real quick. Let me open the other door. There we go. So it's 8 feet of wire. That should be plenty. We're only going from here to the front there. So what I'll do is strip some of this back, see how much we need, see if we can feed it through the firewall on the driver's side here. So it seems like it actually might be easier to just pull it from where it's actually currently at and snake it back to where I did the other one, because the other one has a easy hole to get out of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this zip tie if I can. Come on. Cut that zip tie out, throw it away. Got one left. And then feed this back through here. And then back through here. So we will only have one wire here. Let's put it all over there. Okay. Now come over to this side. Pull it out. And do one more right here. There we go. And then we'll run it the exact same way the other hob switch wire is routed. I can pull that out. Yeah, run it down here. So that should be good. So I still had to extend the wire, but it's looking good. I'm just gonna clamp this down real quick. This is the last piece to the wiring puzzle, I believe. So give that tug. That should be good. That connects here. So that should be it for all the wiring. Let's get that 10 mil, which is already here apparently. Of course you guys can't see, but there's the wire and there's that. So go ahead, loosen this thing up. There we go. And then there's that. Boom, boom, boom. And secured. It's probably gonna say like that. More likely. Yeah, like that. Boom. Okay, so I think that's all of the wiring components done. Now we move on to underneath the car, where I have to do some more stuff. Okay, funnel. I'm gonna go ahead and throw 5 quarts of 5W30 in here. It has no oil currently. I drained it earlier. So let's get this thing filled up. Everything should be tight. Yeah, 530 is really light, but until we know that the motor's good and we want to put race oil in afterwards, then we're going to stick with cheap stuff so we can at least fire it up and just make sure there's no metal inside of it. It would be kind of a waste to put really nice oil in here and then just have to take it out and dispose of it right afterwards. Next we got our coolant. There we go. That's what I was looking for on the last one. Pour this slow. Go ahead and pop these OEM injectors in real quick. Gave me a lot of bags. But let's see how they look. Hopefully they have all of the little rubber pieces on them as well. Indeed they do. So let's see what happens when we try to fit them into the rail. Ah. Interesting. There we go. I opened up the bag of injectors and it turns out 2 of them are missing the top O-rings, so I'm gonna have to go get new O-rings. So back to AutoZone it is. Took a dub. AutoZone actually had a set of O-rings for the injectors, so I have those now. I'm gonna go ahead and snip the where the dipstick sits because it is in the way of what I need to do, which is put the fuel rail on. So it's actually in the way of the fuel rail, which is not bueno. So I've got my snippies and I'm going to go down there and cut it. You guys won't be able to see it, so I'm just not going to record that. Sweet deal. So now we have all of the injectors in and wired up. There you go. You can see there all the way down. All of our injectors are in. So last thing to do is to get the fuel line from the fuel filter onto the bottom of the car here into the factory fuel line so that it can deliver fuel all the way to the front, and then we should be good. But that's been a pain because I can't remove the thing, so I'm gonna try one last time because it is literally the last thing we have to do on this car before startup. Okay, put the hose on just in case because I don't know if this thing's I'm gonna start it up here. I'm gonna crank it with no spark or no injector pulse so that we can crank some oil through. There's some oil in here now, so let's see if it continues to crank some oil through. We gotta feed the turbo some oil before we get going. So I'm gonna throw the battery in real quick. Everything else is pretty much wired up, so basically just drop this in and see what happens. And I am hoping for very happy noises. Okay, I gotta swap the ECU real quick because these are the stock injectors and this is the FP red tune, so hopefully that continues to work for us on this other ECU. Come on, you can do it. Plug in. Yep, there you go. Plug the second one in. Plug the third one in. Come on. Yep. Now let's get the two clamps on. The negative terminal. We'll ground it afterwards. So we'll put this on first. This one on second. We got power. Okay, time to crank. Alright, Dakota's gonna let me know if we're getting oil to that tube now that we have power. I get in the car, and where are my keys? Right here. So let's start this thing up, or at least crank it. Okay. Oh, probably gotta press in the clutch. Oh, nothing. Yeah, you got oil? Okay, cool. So that's great. Let's go ahead, crank it a couple more times, and after we put, so it's been spurting constantly, hopefully. All right, I'm gonna put the injectors back in to fire again, and this time hopefully start it. So we cranked it, got some oil through it, and hopefully this time, well, I didn't put the catch cam back on. I'm gonna have to do that real quick so it has pressure in the block, even though it doesn't fit anywhere nice, which is unfortunate, but that is okay. We will at least have it in for now. But I just wanted to see if cranking it, running it, will actually do anything to the car. So hopefully it's all right. Okay, catch can floating. Let's see if she starts up and actually runs. This is gonna be crazy if it does, which it should. All right. I'm gonna try this other ECU. It should fire up, hopefully. Well, I guess not. I don't know what's going on. Nothing? Is anything leaking? What's it leaking? Coolant? Probably. Coolant. Here, let me give you this. Oh, wow.